Alright, welcome back everybody. My name is Tim and this is another Real Ideal Gear Review. We're going to make a quick video out of this collection of 10 Casio watches. And we're going to have the challenge set before me of choosing just one. If I could only have one, if there was just one that I was left with, the last one that I would sell, or the last one on the chopping block, which one of these 10 would it be? Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through. I have a matrix of things. I'll share that. I have it handwritten out. I've actually spent quite a bit of time thinking about this and just kind of processing what this is going to turn into. And so we'll have an initial ranking system that will knock a couple of them out. Then we'll start knocking them out a little bit faster on some minor things, because once you get past the major things, the rest of it, the differences are pretty small. And that's where a lot of the quality watches are, and you're going to find that a lot of people are just like, you know, I wouldn't have done that. I would have chose this. Like, I get it. These are small differences. I'm not going to make a mountain out of a molehill on this. So let's go through and identify each one of these watches for you. We'll start with the front row because my camera can only focus on one row at a time. So we'll start with the front row over here on the left. This is the F200. This is the F201. And this is the Greyman, the W800. This is the Zebra, the WS1600, and this is the Square, the 5610U. In the back is the CasiOak. Get that in focus here. That is the CasiOak. This is the Bluetooth solar version, and this is the GAB2100. This is the Magpie, the MRW200, and this is analog only. There is no digital module that goes with this watch. This is the Big Sky, the W736, and this is the AQS810. And then in the back we have the Pathfinder, and I think it's the 6600 if I remember right. And if I'm not, I'll make sure I put that in the video down below. You'll see it right away. All right. So what I went through on all of these was basically 10 categories to kind of identify the features that I think are really important. Some of these watches have them, some of these watches have them a little bit, and some of these watches have a lot of it, all right, or it's done really well. So we're going to go through 10 categories. I'm going to name them off for you so that you can hear what they are. First one, obviously, is a big display for time. Easy read for time, highly legible, and this is going to be a relative thing because most of these watches, I think there's only one on here that I have kind of a hard time reading when it comes down to just the time. So they're going to get pretty high scores for most of them, but we're going to go through that. We'll go through the quality big time readout. Second to that is going to be the date, making sure that the date is legible and you can read really easy. And there's a few more that have a hard time with that. The next one, I didn't think this was going to be one that everybody would have, but they do, which is the 24-hour format. Check the box on all of these. Everybody here has a 24-hour format of one form or another. Even the Magpie in the back here. This one has the 24-hour numbers written underneath the 1 through 12. Then it goes 13 through 24. So even that watch has that capability as well. Next is the features in the module itself, and we're going to focus on the first three common ones: stopwatch, dual time, and timer. When it comes down to dual time, I know some of these have world time, which is actually an easier way of setting up the watch. World time, you know, you can pick the city, and then it goes right to the correct change of time based on your home time. So, yeah, so it's not that hard. Dual time, you have to know what the time difference is, and then you set the time, so it's not a huge difference. The next one is, this one really separates a lot of these watches out, and that is the ability to program an alarm. So some of these watches have the ability to program alarm. What I mean by program, you can set the alarm for a specific date, month, and day. You can set it for a specific month and have the alarm go off the entire month, or you can have it set for a specific date and it goes off on that date for every month, or both, or have a daily alarm. So, you know, all of these watches have some type of an alarm function, with the exception of the Magpie in the back here, the MRW200 does not, and the reason it does not is it's an analog only watch. So this watch is excluded from that. So this watch is going to be treated a little differently, and you'll see why, but it's not unfair or unfounded. So we'll get to that when we get to that. Light and lume, or both. The ability to see these watches, low light conditions, dark conditions. We'll go through and rank those. The strap, the quality of the strap, and then also whether or not the keeper has that kind of tongue and groove setup where it doesn't slide all over the strap. Because usually on the really, really cheap watches, you have that problem. But I'll tell you right now, it's at both ends of the extreme. So if you can pick out which watch is the most expensive watch out here, that one struggles with it as well. It doesn't have that ratcheting keeper, which I love. And yeah, it does move around a little bit on my wrist. Not as much as the other cheaper ones, but it does move around. All right, next is battery and atomic time keeping. So if it has solar, huge advantage. If it has a 10-year battery, really good advantage as well. And then if it has atomic timekeeping, you have that quality timekeeping accuracy component built right in. If it has just a 3-year battery, yeah, it takes a hit on that. And then the next one is the pushers. So again, the Magpie is not going to fit in that category because it's not a digital watch. But the pushers, are they protected? Are they too easy to press? Are the buttons big enough to push and find them? Or are the buttons too hard to push because they're recessed in? So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then it has to have 50 meters of water resistance or better. So when it comes down to the watch, the last one that you have, you better dang well have at least 50 meters of water resistance, because you're going to be dealing with water at some point, whether it be sweat, whether it be, reaching into a bucket of water or whatever, hand washing, bathing, that kind of thing, going into a lake, river, that kind of stuff. So 50 meters of water resistance is a minimum. And yeah, there's a few that are going to get weeded out for that as well. So those 10 categories we're going to go through, and we're going to pull out the 2 that didn't make it. The other 8 did. The 2 that didn't make it are the F200 and the F201. These are not bad watches. Matter of fact, these watches, I like them. I like the F201 way better. Matter of fact, the F201, if it just had better water resistance, that is an outstanding watch. Outstanding. If they had just made it 50 meters of water resistance or better, it'd be awesome. If they made it 50 meters of water resistance or better, you'd almost end up with this guy. I call him the Greyman, which is the W800. So the F200, the F201, they go to the back row. They go back into the back of the room, looking in the corner. They just didn't make the cut. All right, so the rest of these, we're going to pull them up just a little bit closer, and these 2 guys can be in the back. So right off the bat, these are the 2 that are going to be sitting off to the back, and we'll focus in on these 8. All right. So now, out of that matrix of 10 items, now we're going to get into some of the nitty-gritty of some other things that I think are going to whittle this down really fast. The first one is profile. We're going to break the profile up into 2 things: the diameter of the dial or the case, and then we're also going to break it up into the height on the wrist. How tall is it on the wrist? So let's start off with the tallness on the wrist. And we're going to have the big Sky is going to take a big hit here because it is such a tall, thick watch. It does a great job of protecting the acrylic crystal that's on here, but it's just, when it comes down to it, if you can get a watch that's more sleek, more slim, and has all the same features, why would you go with a thick watch? The next one is going to be the AQS 810 is another tall one. Not as tall as the Greyman, or as the big Sky, the W736. This one is just right up there. It has these really tall crystal protectors at the 12 and 6 that really kind of knock it down. If it didn't have such tall protectors on there, I think it'd be fine. So now we're looking at, we'll squeeze this one in here. All right, we'll move these around a little bit. Now we're looking at these, what is it, 6. All right. And we're going to knock this down by another 2, so we'll end up with 4. And this is going to be the diameter of the case, how wide the case is. Again, if you can get it to be smaller, you're going to be better off on the wrist. If the profile on the width or the height is less, I think that's going to be where you're going to benefit. And the CasiOak takes the hit. And the CasiOak, I think, is it's a great watch. All kinds of great features. This is a Bluetooth solar. It also has the capacity to do reminders. You can program that in from an app, and it downloads onto the watch. So not only do you have timers and alarms, you can also do reminders. Really cool. I like it. Very slick watch when it comes down to its overall height. The height of this watch is actually less than the square. So when you look at the specs online, this one is shorter on the wrist, thinner on the wrist than the square. It's a little bit wider than the square, but it certainly is thinner. So we're going to take that one out. And of course, this big guy, the dial of the case is just too big. So Pathfinder is gone. Now, Pathfinder, I love this watch. You guys have probably heard me say this over and over again. This is the watch that has so many features, so many cool things about it that I just love this watch. Easy to wear, but it is big on the wrist. It takes up a lot of space, takes up a lot of real estate across the wrist. So that one's going to take a back seat. We'll put that one back here. Now we may pull these up here in just a minute, but I think that's where they're going to be for now. So now we're down to these four. And when it comes down to these four, this guy right here, we're going to set him off to the side, the MRW 200 or the Magpie. This guy is going to be off to the side just because, the Magpie, it's a different kind of watch. It's a quartz analog watch that it's awesome. The profile is low on the wrist, very low, and doesn't take up a lot of space across the wrist either. But it's analog. It just doesn't have the stopwatch, timer, alarms, dual time, doesn't have solar, doesn't have atomic timekeeping. So there's a lot of things about it that are not the same as these other three, and not all these three have those either, but for a variety of reasons, these are rising to the top, okay? We'll set this off to the side. Now, we're down to three, and we got two more tiebreakers here to kind of take us to the finish line here. One of them is going to be contrast of the display. And when you look at the contrast of the displays here, I'm going to turn this so that they have the best view of the camera. There's only one that has the highest, and I think the Greyman is probably second. And the WS1600, the Zebra, is going to take the hit. So that one's going to go back here, and we'll set that one back. And so now we're down to these two guys right here. So now we have what I think are the two best watches, the last watches. If the planet implodes and you're floating out in space, what's the watch that you want to have on your wrist? Okay, if you're out in outer space, the most used watch for astronauts is the G-Shock. Okay, the G-Shock has the 200 meters of water resistance. It has the shock resistant capabilities built into it. Better light, better strap. This has a ratcheting strap. This one does not. There's a lot of things about these two that are great watches. This has a smaller profile, lighter on the wrist, less real estate. I like the buttons on this one better. Okay, the pushers on this are better because they're easier to get, especially if you have thicker fingers. These are recessed in, and so they take a little bit of doing, to get your finger in there and press these buttons. So, and that's good and bad. But the G-Shock is the way to go, and we're going to go with that one. That is going to be the winner. If there's only one watch, I'm going to take that one with me. Now, I'm going to make the executive decision and say that if you had any of these five, you're going to be doing just fine. Okay? These five, to me, are awesome. Okay? And I think the CasiOak is a close one. But the display, the digital display in the CasiOak is terrible. I do not like that. It's all about form, not about function. So to me, that's neither here nor there as far as like, it just can't be in this group of five. But these five, you're going to see these on the internet all over the place on YouTube, with the exception of the Pathfinder. The Pathfinder is the one that you're not going to see a lot of when it comes down to reviews. So, but these are pretty common. The square takes the cake, and we're going to go with that one. And that's the winner. If I had just one, it's going to be the G-Shock 5610U. Well, there you go. This has been another Real Ideal Gear Review. My name is Tim, and we'll catch you guys next time.